All right, so there's a two for today. Um, Obviously, a lot of people are hurting right now in the U.S., particularly my Asian and American brothers and sisters, after what happened in Atlanta on Tuesday, I think it is. Again, I'm in Taiwan, so my dates and times get a little bit fucked up over here. But so here's the thing: there's a lot of chatter over the question of what was this guy's motivation. You know, I think one of the spokesmen for the sheriff's department, he put his fucking foot in his mouth, right? He's talking about how, that he was having a bad day and that this doesn't appear to be racially motivated, that it's some sort of sexual addiction. Hey, that may be true, right? But don't fucking say that shit before the end of the investigation. You know, it just, it gives the perception that there's a sort of bias on behalf of the police department when they're saying that shit before the investigation's even over. You know, maybe in his mind he thought, okay, this is going to help. This is going to give a sense of relief to Asian Americans. But come on, man. You got to understand the situation, right? Over the last year, Asian Americans have been victimized by hate crimes. There's been a spike in hate crimes over the last year because of the coronavirus, because of the way that the coronavirus has been talked about by members of the Trump administration. I mean, Kung flu, really? What are we, fucking children? If you want to say that the Chinese government dropped the ball, fucked up, or acted irresponsibly, whatever you want to say, okay, I'm with you, right? I lived in China, and I know, look, this is not a good regime. They don't really give a shit about their citizens, their people. They're concerned, their primary concern is just social cohesion, right? That's it. Maintaining order, which helps them stay in power, right? So to the extent that they have policies that help their citizens, like raise their living standards, stuff like that, that's great, but they don't do it because they care about their citizens. They do it because it helps them stay in power, okay? But nevertheless, the point is that if you want to demonize the Chinese government, great, I'm with you. But demonizing Chinese people? What the fuck's wrong with you, man? That's like demonizing Americans because of all the heinous shit that the American government's done over the course of its history, right? Should we demonize Americans because of that? Right? Should we say that all Americans are bad or insinuate that all Americans are bad? No, I mean, there's some good Americans, there's some bad Americans. And there is a distinction between the American government and the American people. And even more so with respect to the Chinese government, because it's not a real democracy, right? It's not like these fucking people are choosing that government. Okay? It's authoritarian. So, the blowback from this demonization from the conservatives in the Trump administration, it's real and it's affecting this community. And would you come out and say things that minimize the impact and the suffering that these people have been going through for the past year? I don't think it helps. It doesn't help. If I was an Asian American, I would say, here we go. This guy, he's telling me that essentially that there's no problem with hate crime in America or trying to minimize it, right? Now, is that accurate? I'm just saying. It's certainly, I can understand where an Asian American would have that kind of perspective. Like, you're already minimizing or downplaying the potential racial motivation before you've even finished your investigation. I just don't see how that's going to help. Okay. And then there's the issue of the baseline motivation itself. Is it possible that this guy could have not explicitly had it in his mind to target Asian Americans, but is it possible that he could have been implicit? Meaning, it's pretty well documented by this point that he has some sort of sexual addiction. Okay, that's what everyone who knows him is saying. I think the day before this happened, his parents kicked him out of the house for reasons that I guess had something to do with his sexual addiction. Okay, maybe his addiction to pornography or whatever. People that knew him, his friends, I think his roommate, said that he would talk about his sexual addiction. Okay. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people, a lot of white people, a lot of Americans, I'm assuming a lot of Europeans. I can't speak to that because I'm not European. But Asian women tend to get sexualized, right, by American men. And I could definitely imagine a scenario where, like, his sexual addiction could have become intertwined with his sexualizing Asian American women. I can totally see that, right? I can totally see where he would not be able to separate the two. Because again, why target massage parlors? Is that the only place that he sought gratification? Right? Is that the only, avenue that he had to explore his sexual appetite? Are we going to assume that he never went to a strip club? Why not target strip clubs, right? I mean, I'm just saying, I think there were potential targets out there that weren't explicitly related to Asian American women. They could have satisfied his objective, right? If he wanted to lash out at, pornography or places that nurtured his sexual addiction, there were other targets, right? It didn't have to be massage parlors. I mean, it's not like every masseuse is going to give you a fucking hand job, right? So, but again, I could certainly see the scenario where maybe he didn't explicitly target Asian American women, but, if he's wanting to target these places that provide temptation to him, to his sexual addiction, and at the same time, he has sexualized Asian American women to such an extent that the two are just intertwined, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm a fucking moron, but it just seems to me a fairly logical relationship, right? So, something to think about.